How's it? And welcome back. Moving the Needle podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Nietling. Now, if you've been paying attention to women's mountain biking and freeride, it's been exciting times over probably the last 2-3 years. It's really getting to the forefront, which is awesome. I've loved watching it. We had the first ever women's slopestyle competition at Crankworx, and we've got royalty in the house here, fairly new to mountain biking, which we'll dig into, but she took second place there. Multiple wins at the Crankworx stops, comes from a BMX background, a world champion in her own right when she was a little younger. But I got to know a little bit at Darkfest, and Harriet Burbidge-Smith, known as Haz to the world. How are we doing today, and welcome?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Doing good. Just hanging out here in Oz for a little while. But it was nice to hang out at Darkfest, and thanks for having me on the podcast.
Anytime, yeah. It seems like you obviously listen to some and you've been on some, and some athletes are super into it and some are a little bit more reserved. But it's nice to be able to chat and get a little bit more in-depth understanding of you and women's mountain biking. I mean, it's in a great place right now.
Yeah, it's a thick spot. Just like so much fun, so many events and people to ride with. And it's just like every year it's just like more and more events. Like, what can we do? Which has been sick. Been enjoying it so much.
Yeah, did you ever think when you crossed over to mountain biking we'd be in this position already? It seems like it's happened pretty quickly.
I mean, yeah, I had no idea. I think I came into mountain biking with such little idea of exactly what I wanted to do with it. Just the only thing I honestly really knew was like downhill World Cups and Crankworx, like competing, like racing. And at the time it was like I liked doing dual slalom, and I came from BMX racing, and I never thought that it would. I just didn't really know what there even was. Like, I definitely wouldn't have picked this then. But now it's like the best thing ever. It's so fun, and like that trick progression that's coming now is the most fulfilling, most exciting part of it, for sure.
Yeah, so as a youngster coming from a race background, where were you watching stuff? How are you aware of mountain biking? Because you're from Canberra, as I know, and there was a world champs back in the day, but you might have been a bit young to even see the mountain bike. So what was mountain biking to you as a youngster?
Yeah, so I started BMX very young. I was 4. I did that till I was like almost 24. And I did watch those world champs. I watched the 4-cross where Jared Graves and Caroline won, and I watched the downhill. Steve Peat won that one. I thought that was pretty cool. And that was the first sort of, I did a little bit of dabbling in all disciplines growing up and enjoyed it all, but always came back to BMX racing for some reason. But it wasn't until much later, like Whistler. I went to Whistler for a pump track thing in Canada, and then I went to Whistler afterwards, and I saw Crankworx, and that kind of opened up my eyes to the world a bit more. But before then, there wasn't much. There was like, I remember I used to watch like the Atherton Project on YouTube, and that was my idea of mountain biking, which I thought was really sick. But it was always like, oh no, it's like, it's cool, but it's not for me, and that kind of thing. But I think when it really happened was, going to Crankworx, seeing Joyride, seeing all those events, and how much fun I had that week. That was a big one for me, for sure.
Yeah, I remember seeing your name when I was commentating, and that's the beauty of Crankworx is getting some unknown names, and then next thing they're stars of Crankworx and now stars of mountain biking. But what was that first trip like? How does it come about? Did you you didn't have sponsors back then. Who's paying for it? Because I can remember my first trip overseas, and I was just in awe of everything.
It was insane. I mean, I traveled a fair bit for BMX before, like as a kid growing up, we go to like world champs. There's like a known that for BMX you can do it for all age classes and that kind of thing. And I'd done a couple of World Cups in elite. I didn't do super well. My best result was like 16th or something like that, but that was my goal at the time, and like Olympics and things like that. But towards the end of it, I just wasn't feeling that enjoyment out of it, which I thought was strange, because I really liked riding bikes, and I didn't think that was the problem. It was just there was something in there that wasn't quite the direction I wanted to go anymore. And I remember Red Bull started that pump track series, and there was one that was in Nanaimo in Canada that year, right before Whistler, and I was like, I'm going to go to that. sounds like fun. And then my friend was like, oh, there's this thing in Whistler afterwards called Crankworks. So you should bring your mountain bike and come to that afterwards. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, I'll enter pump track because I'm a bit familiar with that. I'll do slalom, that kind of thing. And really that was like basically all I really knew, and jumped in and like really had no idea anything to do with mountain bikes. Like in terms of like, I've ridden mountain bikes before, but I didn't really utilize anything about it. I borrowed a bike from, at the time I was working in a bike shop in Australia, and I borrowed one of their rental ones and absolutely destroyed it. But yeah, and we spent a week there. I rode things like A-Line. That to me was so new. That was like, I couldn't believe that was a thing. Like, it was so much fun, and it was just like, I enjoyed it so much. And I don't know I don't know my results were. They weren't great. And I was like, I want to be really good at this. Like, this is what I want to do. And that was when I decided to sort of leave BMX behind and leave a lot of sponsors that I had and start fresh in mountain biking, which was, I think 2019. And then I tried the next year, had a massive crash and spent like 6 weeks in a hospital in Europe. And then the following year it was COVID. So everything shut down again. So that was like the start of my mountain biking career, was 2 years of like nothing much happening besides that and COVID. So that was kind of hectic. And then coming back from that, it suddenly went like 0 to 100 real quick, like formation, results in Crankworks, like everything kind of went from like literally nothing to like the most hectic time of my life, basically.
That's crazy. So was it that clear of a switch in Whistler, getting to ride A-Line, seeing the scene in person, that you just had this thing? No, I'm done with BMX. It happened that quickly, that sort of black and white.
Kind of, yeah. Like, it was a very much so. I felt like I was, I don't know, I never felt like when I traveled with BMX, like everyone is, it's very different, I found. And I didn't have a lot of sort of friends in the sport that I trained with or spent a lot of time with or traveled with. And I feel like it is a very competitive side to things. I know I talk to a lot of the girls now that race, and they say like, oh, I didn't realize you were so close with like the girls that you ride with and things like that. It's like, I don't feel like I can do that. It's so competitive. And they're my competitors. Whereas I feel like it's different in mountain biking, and I just straight away, I just felt like the vibe was different, and I could just like have fun, and like it's about pushing each other, which is again the reason you sort of move away from the racing to slope style or the free ride, because like I guess that's like where I thrive, is like pushing yourself with other people, which I think is the sickest aspect of it.
You think that's because of the history of BMX and racing together in one gate? You know, you can blame each other if there's mistakes, even if it's not the other person's fault. There's clashes. It seems like in mountain biking, you know, especially with the time trial sports or slope style, yes, it's judging, but you kind of only have yourself to blame. If you get beat, you either crashed, made a mistake, or someone outperformed you. You know, there's not a shift of blame, and that, you know, motocross has quite gnarly rivalries as well. And it's like, well, you're on the gate together. You can cause, you know, influence other people's results. You can get people hurt.
Yeah.
And then I don't know where, you know, like the BMX parent, you know, like super dad vibe seems
hectic,
a bit more gnarly in BMX. It's like the families don't always gel. Like it seems so different to the mountain bike scene, I would agree.
It's super hectic, but I think like that's nothing like bad on BMX. Like that fits a lot of people really well, and it just didn't fit me. Like I didn't enjoy that atmosphere, and I just didn't enjoy any aspect of it slowly over time. And I think like the love for riding my bike kind of overrated for a long time. So I was actually a bit confused like as to like why I'm not enjoying it, because I know I love riding my bike. But I think that was kind of like the missing piece, was like seeing how big the world of mountain biking is, and that there's not like one very strict avenue, whereas I feel like BMX racing kind of is that. So like seeing Crankworks and being like, there's like 5 or 6 different events, and then seeing like formation and that kind of thing, and being like, wow, there is like literally so much you can do with this, and there's like a lot of freedom in that. Yeah,
that makes sense. Your personality type your love for riding just kind of pushing you through some of the rigors and how structured BMX is. And mountain bike, especially freeride, it's a lot less structured. So it makes sense that you would gravitate to that after being in a box for so long. So I can see how that's exciting. It's new. Like everyone likes a new thing, especially you'll be a lot better at something new because you've got this bike skill, the handling, and you can see it. It shines through. But so you start this mountain bike journey, you've got the Whistler thing, and then you've mentioned like you had this pretty horrible injury like right off the back, but didn't really set you back mentally, it seems.
No, so like the following year, I think it would have been, I think I went to Whistler in 2018, and then 2019 I decided, let's give this mountain biking thing a go. And at the time that was like, I was still very much racing, and I was like slalom, like four cross. I thought four cross was sick. So went and did that and had a massive crash over in Europe and was in hospital for a while there. But yeah, got back and was super stoked to start again. And then the following year we did Roto Crankworks, and yeah, unfortunately that was after that was like lockdown straight away. But that was kind of one of the best things for me. Like went back home, just started like building trails, like building dirt jumps, like riding my bike every day, like started working as a trail builder. Like it really helped me develop my mountain biking skills and really understand the creative aspect of trail building. And with my company that I worked with, it was really sick. I came in with virtually no machine experience or anything trail building wise. Like obviously built a few dirt jumps, but they like on the job like got me in the excavator, taught me all of that. Like it was a really sick experience. And I feel like that expanded like my love for mountain biking.
I didn't know that. So you could drive a digger?
Yeah, I love it. It's so much fun. I've been doing a lot actually. At the moment, I've been building a line to hopefully film some stuff on eventually. And yeah, it's been sick. It's a big 20-tonner at the moment, which is a bit bulky, but it's super fun and you can move so much dirt. We've built a couple of different landings for some ramps at the moment, which has been fun.
No way, it's a 20-tonner. I was thinking like a mini digger that people have allowed me into. It's quite, when you get the hang of it, become subconscious of the moves and quite therapeutic, so fun, I think, when you're sitting and like getting creative and moving dirt, and it looks like a crazy task at the beginning of the day, and then in the day, you've hopefully made something worth riding and looking at. So, because you've mentioned before, it's been, we're jumping ahead, but like a learning curve and trying to understand how to do projects and get budgets and build. And now I'm hearing you just in the digger building. So that's kind of how things happen, right? You got to get in there and sort of do it yourself. Like, okay, I'll figure it out. And let me build the line. Are you building the line and then pitching it to someone? Did you pitch the idea first? What's happening there on that topic?
Both. Yeah, it's kind of a bit of both. Like, sort of learning, to approach people and sponsors and things like that with concepts, like trying to be creative and actually come up with, unique and interesting stuff that has a little bit of a deciding whether you want storyline to it, or you don't want storyline to it, like that kind of thing. I think it's really cool to have more like women's edits out there that doesn't have a storyline, because I feel like the industry for a while thought that that's what we needed. Like every women's one needs to have this emotional storyline or this reason for why we're filming women. It's like, no, let's just do a sick, like, I know young girls and me, like growing up, it's cool. Sometimes there's a time and a place for it, but what about content of us just riding our bikes? Like that is sick. That's what there should be more of. So like, I just want to build something really sick to ride on, and then just try and do my absolute best that I can on it for a video.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That people were kind of defending that there's a project out there, so giving it a storyline. And in the beginning, it is new, so maybe tell the story. But I think we forget how many women are coming up. A good friend of mine, I rode with him last night, his daughter's just got her first full suspension. Now, whether she rides long-term or not, I mean, I could imagine she'd probably rather watch you ride a bike with blonde hair. She can relate to that as a youngster than even Emil, right? There is a market for it, so why not put it out there? And obviously, it looks amazing, doing some really creative stuff. So that's super interesting that you bring up that topic, because you've also been sort of vocal about being pigeonholed to just progressing the sport and progressing women's. Like, no, but like we're mountain bikers. Like we are also doing cool things in general, right?
Yeah. I think it's a fine line, and it's a lot of pressure at the same time. I feel like a lot of pressure comes with just being just us in general, because I feel like if you look at any of the guys that get into slopestyle, there's a lot of internal pressure for them to do well, and maybe to do well for their sponsors and that kind of thing. And if they do bad, they're going to be disappointed in themselves, and maybe some people might be disappointed in them. But when we did it, it felt like not only was there all that pressure, but there was pressure that if we didn't do well, the whole sport for women wouldn't do well. Or the whole, like, if I didn't perform at Rotorua, I was thinking, I hope everyone gets a good rundown. Like, I hope we all make it to the end with what we're stoked on, because it'll reflect on our sport, like, because it's so new. So I feel like there's always your pressure, and then there's also the pressure of what you're trying to do for the sport at the same time, which is a lot. Sometimes you got to kind of forget about that, try to at least. But yeah,
I don't even think about that you sometimes feel that you ladies have the sport on your shoulders. Like, there's one thing trying to get a slopestyle run in, and now you're going, what, you guys are probably subconsciously going, I hope this show's good enough for it to carry on. Like, those thoughts are in your head.
Yeah, that's exactly like the thoughts that I was having, like, at Rotorua, because we got on that was one of the funnest weeks of my life. Like, that course was so fun. I learned so much, and I was like, as soon as I finished finals, I was like, I have so much to work on. Like, I want to do so much. But I remember finals day, we got there, and we sort of last night, it was like, okay, the guys aren't competing. Like, you guys are the show now. And I was like, this is sick. Obviously, it's disappointed that the guys couldn't ride with us. That was obviously a whole different thing. Totally respect them for doing that. But it was okay, like, people are going to be tuning in to watch the guys, expecting the guys, and it's going to be us. And that's a lot of pressure, and a lot of we have to, like, it wasn't just about us, like, individually. It was like, what are we going to do? Like, we have to make sure that, yeah, it's a lot of pressure. And we got there in the day, and it rained all night. The whole course had been tarped up, and all the wooden features were super slippery. And like, all the guys came up, and we were kind of like, what would you guys do in this situation, that kind of thing. And they were like, well, we wouldn't be riding this right now. It's too slippery. Like, get the guys to put the torches on it for another half an hour, that kind of thing. Like, all these little things. And we're like, it's just like in your head, you're like, okay, we've got to make it work, because we are the show now. And then it's like, is it going to be good enough, or whatever, like, that kind of thing. So it was a lot that morning, like, and then thankfully the weather, like, absolutely turned. It was so windy as well when we got there. Like, first half an hour of practice, so windy, course was wet, the wall ride was slippery. Guys were like, we wouldn't ride that, it's too slippery. Like, yeah, it was a lot, and we were like, this show is all on us right now. And right now things are, like, not ideal. So yeah, it was all that kind of thing. It was definitely a stressful morning for sure.
Sounds it, but it sounds like it was good to have the guys there, because they've been through it, and obviously they were going through their own challenges with organization stuff. So they've been through it to say, hey, you can stand up for yourselves and push it back like another half an hour. Did you ladies actually verbalize to each other, this is a big deal, or was it kind of an elephant in the room and no one spoke about the magnitude of the day?
I mean, no, I don't think we really talked about it. Like, I think we all just were nervous, and then we knew, obviously, like, there was a lot of pressure on us, and we just like, well, like, let's have fun, like, let's just put down the run we want to put down. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we all did. And yeah, it was sick. It was really fun. It was a good, once we started riding and we did the McGazza, I remember we dropped in for the McGazza train, and I was like, I've always wanted to do this. Like, this is so sick. And then, yeah, from there, it was just fun. And yeah, it was a great day.
That's awesome. I've heard there's obviously people with different sayings, but I think they've said pressure is a privilege, like when you start riding, maybe you realize, like, yeah, it's like, you're totally right. Like, there's a reason I feel like this, but I'm privileged, I'm honored. This is what I want to be doing. So you need to embrace it. But it's good when you start the riding and then you're like, okay, I'm just riding my bike again. And that's probably how you have to force yourself to deal with the pressure.
Yeah, no, that quote has been like a really big one for me lately, because for a long time I didn't get it. I was like, okay, like that sucks. Like, pressure
Nice,
is like the
smart
worst
words.
thing.
What do you?
Yeah, but then I realized over the last like 2 years that all the moments that I look back on was like, that was like, I was so proud of myself. I was so stoked on that. It was like, had immense pressure in that moment. And I realized that you do your absolute best stuff, like the stuff that you look back on under massive amounts of pressure. And it's events like that, like Dark Fest, all that kind of thing, where you have that. It's okay, well, now is the time, like, use that pressure. Like, this is like a privilege right now, because you would not be stepping up and doing this right now if you didn't have pressure on you, like whether that be internal or external. You wouldn't be doing it right now. So yeah, that quote has been pretty big lately for me, actually.
Oh, that's cool. Like, I think, being uncomfortable, people that are able to deal with it and push through and push through the pressure, like you said, you become a better and stronger person right on the other side. But it's certainly not easy at all.
No, it's like, definitely in the moment you're like, fuck this, I hate this so much.
Yeah, whose idea was this?
Yeah, then afterwards it's like the best feeling in the world. So it's like, yeah, you got to really push through it a bit, but it's sick.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we maybe jumped ahead a bit. So you go through an injury and these events start forming, for lack of a better term. There's formation, right? There's proving grounds. Like, I forget all the names, and ladies got invited to do stuff out at the Rampage site. And you and Robin speaking about these events got me thinking. There's one thing, ladies progressing and stuff, but if you don't have the opportunity to do it at events where you're out of your comfort zone, then you can't progress. There's only so much you can progress in an airbag and on your own. Like, you need the events, you need to see what you can do on the same course. And it's interesting because you said, the more we get invited, the sky's the limit for us. That was some of the limiting factor, was the lack of access.
Yeah, I think so. And like, I can't even imagine, like, it's so sick to look back on the slopestyle sport and the history and how long it actually has been going on. And then, like, just after riding the Rotorua course, like, having that opportunity, like, it felt like it opened up so much more, like, straight away, like, riding a bigger course, like, getting comfy on ramps like that. Like, that was the first time I think most of us got to train or ride on ramps like that, features like that. And it was like a little bit of a figuring it out. But like, now that you've done it, it's like, okay, well, what's the next thing? So it's like, you couldn't really do that until you do it, like, till you get a chance. Same thing with, like, having airbags, having training setups for slopestyle. Why would we have that? Why would sponsors pay for that when there's no slopestyle for women? Like, or anything like that. It was like, so if there's no platform, there's no support, and if there's no support, how could you progress? Why would you? Because there's nowhere for you to go with it. So I think it's going to be sick. I'm so stoked with, like, Natasha Miller and Patty and all them, and them growing up in this. It's going to be so insane to watch.
Yeah, it's like a chicken before the egg thing. If you don't give us events, we can't improve. We don't improve, you're not going to invest in us and give us airbags to improve more. Like, it was like a chicken before the egg, and no one was willing to start the process, but the process has clearly been started,
Yeah, started, and it's sick. I'm just enjoying it and trying to learn as quick as I can. Like, there's so much that I want to achieve in it, and so much work that I have to do. So it's very much so, like, Rotorua was really sick, and I'm keen for Cairns. Like, unfortunately, I'm injured at the moment, but have a good 2 weeks to train before Cairns, where I'm going to try and dial in some new stuff. I think I missed a lot of tricks that I wanted to do at Roto, just from I guess getting used to the course. I ran out of time / had a few crashes that slowed me down a bit. By the time the finals came around, I was like, I just need to get a run that I know I can do 100% of the time, which is kind of the advice I got from a lot of the older slopestyle guys that sort of are now more in free ride. Like, all their advice was pick a run that you know you can do 100% of the time and do that. So yeah, that's kind of what I did. But there was a lot more that I kind of wanted, but didn't feel quite ready for a lot of reasons. But yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. So the magnitude of this whole sort of event on your lady's shoulders, you kind of want to get a run down and do it for the judges and the crowd. But so what was the emotion like for you guys? I saw the emotion through the screen when you stomped your runs, you and Robin and the rest of the field. And then I saw you guys did a sort of a victory lap. Like, what was the emotion like at the top? Because you guys are obviously great friends and competitors. We can't shy away that you are competitors.
Yeah, no, it was really sick. Before the first run, there was a lot of nerves. Like, I just didn't want my legs to like buckle on one of the ramps. Like, I was like, they were just like jelly. I was like, just stay strong. I know, like, before I dropped in, Limp Bizkit came on, and there was that intro, and Robin sang it just as I was like dropping in, and I was like sick. This was like totally like chilled me out and like just made me have a laugh, and like just as I was dropping in.
Aren't you too young to know Limp Bizkit?
No, that's like our jam. It was so good. Yeah, and then by the time it got to the second run, like, I kind of realized that I might have injured my knee a bit, and I honestly didn't think that I could physically do a run better than my first run at that stage. And I kind of talked to Robin. It was just us two left, and it was like we were in second and third. I mean, second and first. And I was like, I think I'm good. Like, I'm happy. Like, and she was like, oh, thank God. Like, I'm good to, like, I think we were both pretty, like, yeah, stoked on that. So, like, yeah, do you want to do a party lap down? And she was like, yeah. So we just did that, and it was super fun. And it was like, yeah, flipped the last one still, though. It was just like, kind of had to, I feel like. But yeah, it was a sick feeling. It was like a good relief that we put down a run, and it was like, it felt like just the beginning, though, kind of is what it felt like. Exactly like that. Basically like the beginning of something. There's lots to build on, lots to work on. I'm not going to deny that we are a long way off the men's field, I feel like. But I feel like that's just time. It's going to take time, and I want to work as hard as I can to be at the best level that we can be at sometime in the future. Whether that ends up being myself or whether that ends up being someone else, like, it's going to happen. So, yeah.
I was going to say, it's pretty cool because you factually are part of something bigger than yourself. You know, there's going to be some youngsters coming up, and like you say, with time, you need a lot more time. The men have had so much time and experience on courses and things like that. So it is going to be bigger than you, which is pretty cool. But like you said, it's probably a privilege as well. And your guys' friendship cracks me up because in one breath, we're not competitive. And then when you're asked to describe each other's ridings, there's a few digs that are thrown in there. So where did the friendship start? How long have you guys known each other? Yeah, give us some insight into traveling and riding with it.
Yeah, I mean, actually, everyone thinks we know each other a lot longer. We haven't really, like, we both met at formation in 2021, and we were both the alternates. And that was my first kind of free ride event that I'd been invited to. It was the first time, I guess, outside of Crankworks that I'd traveled for mountain biking. And it was pretty similar for Robin too. That was the first time she'd kind of traveled for a mountain biking event. So we're both kind of a little bit on the outs. Like, most of the other girls there had a lot more established in mountain biking, like Casey and Minnie and all those guys. So it was like a little bit like on the outs, kind of. I don't even know how you would explain it, but yeah, we both kind of came in like pretty fresh to the freeride scene. And then yeah, we hung out a bit at the next Crankworks in Innsbruck, and that was when she was flipping the speed and style, and I was like, oh, that's sick. Like, it kind of inspired me a little bit, like, because at that stage I was still like a little bit more of a racer and like just dabbling in like the free ridey stuff. And I was like, well, that's really sick. And it was like super motivating. And yeah, and then just hung out again and during the summer series then, and that was still when COVID was really hectic. So when we came to New Zealand, we had to quarantine for 2 weeks, and then I ended up staying at her house in Rotorua after that. And then yeah, the next year we were like, may as well like travel to some events together, like, and just yeah, from then like kind of, you know, traveled a lot together and trained a lot together, and sort of realized that we had very similar like motivations and goals in the sport. And yeah, I found like a lot of the stuff that she did motivated me highly, and that maybe hopefully the same. But yeah, and just a classic like Kiwi Australian friendship where it's like a lot of shit talk.
Yeah, I love it. Between the English and the Southern Hemisphere, South Africa as well, we do bond via shit talking. So it's good to hear the ladies are not far off on that. I can hear it, and it's all. I mean, I think it's good. It's a little bit of competitive banter is also good. It pushes you out your comfort zone, learning tricks and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's super sick. And just like, yeah, that whole group, like Martha, Robin, Casey, like love traveling with them and doing the events. And it is very genuine that I'm genuinely stoked for them whenever I'm competing with them, regardless of the result. It's never anything outside of a result that, you know, who cares? Like, we're good mates, let's have fun kind of thing.
Yeah, I hope when things get even more serious and established, I hope it stays that way. But I think it can, because rivalry. Of the there'll be a rivalry, but you know, it's this individual sport. You know, you're not on the track at the same time bumping elbows.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah, no, it's good. I think it's the best way to. It's a great way to be better, but I think it'll definitely always be, you know, good mates that enjoy the sport and enjoy, you know, having fun in the sport.
So on this topic of tricks and slopestyle, because that's kind of where we've been at the moment, you know, everyone's watching in and you're stomping all these flips, but flips were actually a bit of a nemesis for you. You had a little bit of a mental block from what I understood, and used a lot of visualization, and you basically had to force yourself through something you kind of didn't want to do at the time.
Yeah, I think it was a massive one for me. I'm not really sure why. It was a really weird one. I know that at the time I was sort of going for the Crankworks overall and that kind of thing. So I wanted to do well in all the events, like regardless. And it was, 2 years ago now, and I was still going for the overall, wanted to do well. And I remember I did Innsbruck, and I think Robin was flipping, I think Alma was flipping or threeing, and Caroline was flipping at the time. And I just felt so demotivated to compete with tucks or with other tricks. I just felt like, I don't know, I just didn't fit. I felt like I wasn't being fulfilled at all. I was like, why am I doing this? Like, this is not sick. Like, I don't feel cool. Like, it just was like so weird to me. And I remember I think I got like 5th or something. And I think that was the first time Robin won, and one of my mates won in the men's as well. And I was so stoked with them, but I was so like just not stoked with how I rode it all. And I was like, why is that? Like, why am I not? And I was like, it's because I wasn't like doing something that I thought was cool. And I was like, I knew I wanted to flip, but it just didn't feel like, at the time I'd only done a couple to the airbag and things like that. But I remember I told Martha, I told Robin or something like that. I was like, I don't care if I crash out at Whistler, like I'm flipping in speed and style. And that was kind of me deciding that I didn't care about the overall. I knew that this was bigger than that, and like doing something that I was stoked on in a run was bigger than that. So I went back and I kept practicing it. And then I know I did my first one to do it at Brett's house because me and Robin were staying there at the time. And that was another one where like she was like watching me just like straight out of this rant for like in hours. And she was like, I think it got to one point and she just got so mad at me. And afterwards she told me, she was like, I didn't know what else to try. Like, I was trying everything. I was like, I'll just get really mad at you and see if that works. And she was just like, if you don't do it this time, like, just fucking go. And I was like, okay. And I pulled one, over-rowed it. But like, as soon as I felt that, I was like, oh, it's there. Like, went straight back up and did it. And then stomped a bunch more. And then yeah, Whistler was like 2 or 3 weeks later. And same sort of thing. It was like, I had to put myself in a spot where it was like, it was either do it. It was like accepting that I'll probably crash the first time. Basically, like, I had to put myself in a headspace of I probably will crash the first time to feel it out, because that's what it was for me for flips for the first 3 months or so. It was like, it took me a while to like feel it out, and then after that it was all good. But like, it was very much like putting myself in a I'm gonna crash situation for the first one. And then yeah, I did it at Whistler and still got knocked out by Alma really early. She was doing like the sickest threes and flips, and I didn't care. I could care less about that. I was like, I did what I wanted to do, yeah, and I was stoked on it. And then so I mean, speed and style is a great way to get good and come to your trick, because you end up having to do it like 16 times in one day. So I did it a couple times then, and then we had Cairns like a couple of months later, and I won that doing the flip. And I think I did like 16 flips or something, getting through all the rounds. And like, since then it's been pretty good. So if you want to get good in the trick, just like commit to doing it for a whole round of speed and style, and you'll be good. Yeah.
And you got to do it under racing circumstances, and maybe going a little bit quick or a little bit slow. Like, it's not an ideal situation, and it's not like sitting at a training compound and go, I'm not really feeling it, I'll take an hour or 2 off, or I'm not really feeling it, I'll do it tomorrow. Yeah, you were forced to get the reps in.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd advise that to everyone, how to learn flips, but it certainly worked for you.
Yeah, it was definitely like mentally made me like super comfy with them. And yeah, like a lot of the speed and styles, it's like you've got to remember when to switch off and chill, because you cannot go into those ramps like full speed and expect to flip it. Like, it's just like way too fast. Especially Cairns, I remember being like, I was like forcing myself to do a gate in like a heavier gear, because I was like, chill out, bro. Like, because when you're next to someone, like, you want to race them, and like, I'm a racer, like I was a racer, so it's hard for me to be like, no, like, chill, let them get ahead, get the flip, then like switch on and go after that. And it was like, yeah, it's a lot nicer now in slope style, like not having to worry about that speed aspect, that's for sure. It's like really fun.
Your riders make it look a lot easier than it is, because when we're commentary, we can see, someone's going a bit quick, like the trick's going to be difficult, or you see someone chilling, like you say. Such a mental battle, because it's speed and style, so you want to get out front. But if you're doing a big trick, you're probably going to sort of, like you say, chill, and then the person's ahead of you. So yeah, how's that battle of, okay, I'm doing a bigger trick, so hopefully the judge score me well, but then I'm behind the person on speed, but now I've got to maybe mentally catch up a bit on speed?
I think it kind of depends on the course too. Like, I have a lot of confidence that I know that I can make up the speed. Like, I still am, like, I'm enjoy slalom. Like, I feel like I'm good at it. And like, yeah, it was like, okay, you've got to chill out right now. And then as soon as you land that flip, like, go as hard as you can, like, catch back up. And then like, it's just like having like good sort of trigger points on the course where you're like, this is where you chill, this is where you go. So there's a lot to think about. Like, it's a lot more than any of the other events. I feel like they, like, slalom, it's just like go fast, or slope, it's just like just chilling your tricks. Pump track, go fast, downhill, go fast. Whereas this is like chill, go fast, chill, like hold back, and then go full gas. It's like very different for sure.
It is, because downhill, if you do it correctly, there's visualization, and you kind of have a plan, and then you're hopefully going to ride on subconscious instinct and go as fast as you can with your plan. You shouldn't be thinking too much. It should be natural, and where you're going to brake and where you're going to push for your skill set. But in speed and style, are you actually sort of almost talking to yourself throughout the run, like reminding yourself, this is where I chill? Or have you done all the visualization and plan before the start?
I think usually in practice, like, you get a good idea of when you know you want to set up for the feature, depending on what trick you're doing. So that's kind of a little bit of a default. But yeah, at the same time, like, there is a lot of, depending on the course, it depends how far away the gate is from the first ramp. But things like Cairns, where it's really close, I'm almost like quite relaxed in the gate, because I'm like, this isn't a race right now. I'm going to chill, get the first flip out of the way, and then it's like full gas because there's like quite a long middle section where I'm like, it's basically a slalom for me. So yeah, kind of just like practice like sussing that out. And then little things like, keeping my gear heavy to force myself to chill out of the gate a bit more rather than like go back to like my BMX like roots and just like absolutely gassing it out of the gate. But yeah.
Yeah, so you obviously took to the racing component of mountain biking really quickly, and now you're stoked on freeride and you've done Darkfest. So that's a natural thing for you. Do you feel a little sad leaving some of the racing routes behind? Where are you at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it was super weird doing roto and not doing anything else. Like, I did slalom, I did speed the slalom because they were fun, and I think they are really fun. And it was like a hard call to make, but at the same time, I knew that, well, especially for Rotorua, I knew that there was no way that I could focus on anything more than slopestyle if I wanted to put a run that I wanted to in slopestyle. And I just decided that that was what was going to be my priority, because I felt like it was going to be a lot harder for me, and I'm learning a lot more in that discipline, whereas I can just jump into slalom and speed and style and switch on for the event, and it happens. Like, I just have been doing it for a little bit now, and it just wasn't really challenging me much, which sounds kind of bad, but it wasn't something that I needed to train for too much. Like, it's just kind of like I knew what I had to do on an event day. Whereas slopestyle is a massive thing. Like, I know how much work I have to put in. Like, I've got a lot of work to go. Like, seeing like the kind of tricks that some of the young girls are doing, it's like, that's not the level that I'm at yet. I need to work a lot, but it's a lot more satisfying and a lot more fulfilling, and I feel like it's a lot more exciting. So it's like, yeah, maybe I won't get any as many results or podiums in crankworks from not doing other events, but I guess it's letting go of the fact that they don't matter to me as much, because I'm focusing on something that's like more fulfilling to me, like personally. So yeah.
How interesting is it that we actually get more fulfillment from doing hard things, challenging things? I mean, it's spoken about a lot. If you think about it, it comes naturally to me to do slalom. And that because of all the work you put in. It's not just you woke up and you were good at slalom. It's from all the BMX racing and that stuff, and speed and style to a certain extent. So, and you see it all over. Champions get bored. Sam Hill got a bit bored of downhill, if you ask me. Became monotonous, and then he needed a new challenge. And it's this whole thing of like, greatness is on the other side of being uncomfortable, or whatever the term may be. I'm sure there's a smart person that said it way better than that. But it's kind of happening to you now. It's like you've got this kind of eagerness to push yourself in something you're not naturally good at. You're just more inexperienced right now, and you've got a lot to learn.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think definitely. I think the racing was really fun, and like, I'm not going to say I'm never going to do speed and style slalom again, but yeah, I think what I'm doing right now is really exciting, and yeah, a lot of potential for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what's it been like? So we skipped a bit ahead, and we can jump back to some of the the first few events you've done. But considering you're newish to mountain biking, considering there was COVID and an injury, you've kind of only had 3 full years at it. This being the 4th. You got the Red Bull hat on.
Yeah.
You've been on Trek. You're on Canyon. You got sponsors now. What's it like being sort of thrust into this industry and the top of the industry? Other riders have had years of figuring it out and talking to sponsors and maybe people helping them. What's it been like for you on that side, the industry side, and people wanting to do interviews and podcasts and these sort of things?
Super hectic. Like, it's such a weird thing. Like, it was very sudden, and it was at the same time of me learning. Like, it didn't feel like I got to my peak of mountain biking and then I got this, I guess some people call it like the results or the success or the sponsorship and that kind of thing. It felt like it was honestly like within the first, like the beginnings of me learning mountain biking. Like, yeah, I had a lot of background skills from other aspects like BMX and that kind of thing. So I definitely had a really good baseline, and I got good results. I guess you could say reasonably early on. Like that was still like my third or fourth Crankworx when I finally got a win. But I still feel like now I'm learning so much more, because I still feel like I'm so fresh to the sport, which is very exciting to me. Like I don't feel like I'm 27, but I feel like I'm so young in the sport, and like I have so much to learn, and I feel like it's happening so quickly. So everything happened really quickly with support and my career and establishing something to work on. But at the same time, it feels like I'm learning at that same sort of aspect, which is really exciting. So it feels like I have so much further to go, which is sick. And it's still everything is like super exciting. I'm so motivated like every day, and it's like, what can I do? Like, what do I want to be? Like, I love riding my bike, and I have so much that I want to do. So it's like so exciting.
Does it add a little bit of pressure with it happening so quickly, and then you maybe feeling like you've got so much to learn? Like maybe you feel I don't belong at the top yet, or has it just been quite organic for you?
I mean, I feel like in slopestyle there was pressure, because I feel like there's such a long history with the guys, and when we get dropped into the same competition as them, there's a lot of comparison, which is online, which is a lot of the time like super not nice to read. But I feel like you just have to kind of take it for what it is, which is our first year of getting this opportunity, my first year of getting this opportunity, and everyone else's, and just be stoked for what you want to do with the sport and what can happen with it. And yeah, I think it is what it is. It's so new for us, and this opportunity is insane, and I just want to be excited about it, which is what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
Sick. It's pretty hard to ignore some of the comments. I mean, I know everyone says don't read the comments, but one bad comment definitely outweighs 100 good ones. Like, it must be quite challenging, this comparison thing, which is odd to me. It really is odd. People love to make comparisons, but like, I guess they can only compare to the men, because you ladies haven't done it. Maybe next year they compare it to the first Crankworx. Be like, wow, look at the level now. There's no benchmark to compare it to.
Yeah, it's super hectic. You come into a sport, it's like, even like I've been watching like the guys that are getting into it. Like you look at like Lemoyne and Fedkel and all that kind of thing, or like Regatpen, it's like their 10th year or something, like just on Crankworx, like slopestyle courses. And it's like, that's insane. I'm not saying that's, I don't know. It's just so much history and so much time that we don't have yet. And whether we're at that level in 10 years or not, like, that's not for me to, who knows? But I think like you can only imagine that 10 years has got to be good for you. And it makes me excited. But yeah, at the same time, getting dropped into a sport with guys like that is a lot, and there's obviously going to be people that are going to hate on that. But yeah, what can you do? It's not. I feel like at this stage, it's just like pointless. Like, I feel like after Rotorua, I remember seeing comments on Instagram and YouTube, and then people were just making stuff up. They were saying things like the guys were protesting because of the girls, or the girls got all the guys' prize money. That's why they competed. And it's like, people are going to trigger themselves, basically. Like, it doesn't matter what we do. They're going to, if they want to hate, they're going to hate, and they're going to come up with something. So, it is what it is. It was one of the sickest weeks ever. Like, riding that course was so much fun. And I just want to be better at it and keep working hard at it. And I think everyone else feels the same in the sport. It was so sick, and the guys were so supportive and so stoked for us. And when you actually look at the people actually in the sport, the guys in the sport, they're like one of the most stoked for it. So how can you really focus on the people that are talking shit?
No, you certainly can't. It's difficult, but haters are going to hate, and I'd like to see those haters drop in at the top of Rotorua slope style, because there's
Yeah.
only a select few men that'll do it and a select few women in the world that'll throw backflips and crazy shit on there. So yeah, I saw the energy you ladies had. I thought it was awesome, and I saw the guys on the side, and they are awesome with that. That's cool. It's an amazing scene. Have you got some memories from some of these earlier competitions, formation, proving grounds? Like what was that like? Like, you know, kind of thrown in the deep end, for lack of a better term, going to these
Super.
events that you were speaking about, you and Robin, like, well, we haven't been to these things. We don't know if we can jump these jumps. What's that like looking back at it now?
Insane. Like, I remember formation, that was proper, like, in the deep end. That was like, I got my first downhill bike a month before then. Like, before then, I'd just been trying to do freeride features on a trail bike, like my old remedy. And then I remember Trek got me a session, and I built it up and left the formation and got to Utah and was like, this is so gnarly. I was like, I barely know how to ride a downhill bike at this stage. And like seeing like like Tammy and all those crazy girls like just sending it down the steepest chutes, like gnarliest stuff. I was like, this is insane. I had no idea at that time, and thankfully I like did and good enough there, and did well enough at Crankworks, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, Red Bull is like keen, and suddenly you're getting results, and suddenly things are working. At the same time, I'm progressing so quickly because I've just been thrown in the deep end. I kind of have to. So yeah, it was like because that was like when I left for formation. That was only supposed to be like a 3-week trip. Do formation, then because at the time Australia was locked down because of COVID, so I needed like government permission to leave the country. So I was like, may as well make the most of it, do formation, and then I'll go and do Innsbruck Crankworks, and then I'll come home. And then I did well at both of them, well enough that I was like, I've got a bit of extra cash here. Let's see how long I can keep going for, because if I went back to Australia, I'd have to do 2 weeks of quarantine, which I would have to pay for, and I wouldn't be able to leave the country again. So I was like, let's just see how long I can go with this. And then it turned into, I think, like 9 or 10 months before I went back to Australia. So it was just like insane.
Yeah, that's crazy. You guys were so horribly locked down and having to pay for it yourself. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's almost a blessing, I guess, forcing you out. Well, when you go, like, okay, well, I'm not going to go back. It's going to cost me money to go back. So I'm just going to find these events and keep sort of honing my craft over there. I guess looking back, it's somewhat a blessing.
Yeah, it was a massive, massive year for me. And it kind of was like, yeah, just seeing how many events I could do before I ran out of money. And then suddenly sponsors were actually interested. And this was like, I think Red Bull might be my first ever paying sponsor. And that was like the dream sponsor. And it was like, this is insane. And that was like, I was just, yeah, it was hectic. It was like, how far can we go? And then all of a sudden I'm like in the middle of it, Crankworks, and I came out of Innsbruck leading the like overall. And I was like, this is so insane. But it was like, this was actually the dream that I've been like thinking about for like the last however many years. And suddenly you're like right in the middle of it. And it's like so hectic, but like just, yeah, it was the best thing ever.
What was it like getting the call from Red Bull? Or how does it work?
Yeah, it was a little bit of chatting here and there, but nothing crazy. They are definitely pretty coy with you for a bit. I think they called me when I was in LA between 2 events, and they messaged me and they're like, "Oh, have you got time for a call?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I just kind of had I just had a feeling that it was going to be a big call, whatever it was. So I was just like pacing around the streets of like LA with my phone, like making sure I had reception, like just waiting for that call. And yeah, it was just like calling, like how would you like to be, like how would you like to ride for Red Bull? And it was just like, are you kidding me? It's just like insane. And yeah, it was pretty surreal. And it still feels surreal. I don't think it, maybe you have to be with them for a lot longer than what I'm for, but it's still, every time I see the helmet, every time someone mentions it, like I'm stoked. It's like not something that I forget about, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and putting your program together and funding it all, how's that been? How much of a challenge is it? I don't think a lot of people understand the free ride side. You know, World Cup teams, if you get on a team, if you're getting results like you were, you would be offered a contract, there would be expenses included, food. I mean, they take care of everything.
Mm-hmm.
They order the bikes, they order the parts. Like, you've basically got to put your own program together, or how has it worked for you? You're part of like a free ride team and there's a manager to help with that. What's it been like?
Yeah, it's a lot more, you've got to definitely do a lot more of that yourself. All my sponsors are sort of individual, and I do it all myself, like in terms of that kind of side of things, and same with like travel and everything like that. Like, that's all on me to pay for and organize out of, you know, what I earn from all my sponsors. It gives you a lot more freedom and more opportunity, because I guess you're not set into a certain team with certain brands and a certain salary. So it's a lot more negotiation, but it definitely took a long time to get used to that and to learn that process and work with stuff. I think this is the first year where everything on my bike is sponsors and not being paid for. Up until last year, that was still like brakes and drivetrain, and even before that I didn't have suspension and that kind of thing. So this is the first year where it's like, okay, I still have to obviously figure it all out, but like, yeah, not pay for anything, which is crazy and super sick. And like even wheels, like just signed with I9, so that was sick, and it's the first time I've had a wheel sponsor. It's just, yeah, it's really nice now and then having Shram on board has been like a game changer, like going to the events and being there with the mechanics. Like, that's new to me. That's like, wow, I've just got this, like after Rotorua, I was like, had a couple crashes, was like, walked in, was like, oh, can you give my bike a quick look over? I was like, yeah, sure thing. Like little things like that are so new to me too. Like, that is so nice. It's not something that I think it's a little bit more common, like in the downhill racing World Cup scene, I guess, to have people that are looking after in that aspect. But having that has been super nice for sure.
Yeah, that's epic to hear, and well deserved. Yeah, having a mechanic is certainly a special thing, and it's pretty unique in slopestyle. I know there is support for a lot of the riders, and it'll probably get better, but it is an interesting thing that not everyone sort of chats about, is the differences. Even though it's mountain biking, at the same event, you're at Crankworks, you're on the same broadcast, but the structure and the logistics are totally different.
Yeah, very different, and yeah, just lots to learn, and it's definitely a very different scene. But yeah, super excited, and yeah, learned lots from Rotorua, that's for sure.
When was your first Darkfest? When did you come for the first time? What year was it?
Last year. So this year's my second one.
This one was your second one. So before you came for the first time, what were you thinking? What? Because I mean, you probably see the jumps from afar on the internet. Must be like, this could be a little bit of a crazy idea.
Yeah, it was kind of like a little bit of do I ask them? Because once I ask, like, if he says yes, like, you have to go. It's like you can't get the yes from him and then be like, oh, actually, like, I'm a little bit scared, I'm gonna not go. It was like, so the hardest part is like going like, okay, I'm gonna ask him. Like, and I think at the time he hadn't ridden with, this was like only like a month before last year's one, and I was like, got to a point where I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna ask him, like, this is it, like, this is what you want to be doing, like, it's a big step up, but it's where you want to go. And I think he was like, oh, it's like, I'm not sure yet, like, I like to ride with people first. And he was like, I'm going to be in Queenstown though, like, let's ride together. And I think he came and I filmed with him and Robin on Dream, and like rode the 55 footer or whatever, and towed him into that. And then I mean, we had a 6 session on that, and afterwards he was like, yeah, fuck it, like, book a ticket, like, let's go. And did that, and that was sick. And then this year was even sicker. Like, it's one of my favorite events. It's definitely one of those environments that pushes you to try and, you know, do some stuff that's going to scare you a bunch. But yeah, it's like you come out just like so pumped. It's insane.
I don't know how you felt. It's kind of as scary the second time, because you have a whole year to forget what the feeling and the speeds, and then you get there and it's, well, at least for me, I'm like, what was everyone doing last year and why are we back here? And then, yeah, you just get more and more comfortable. I guess everyone kind of works their way up to jump it on their own time, which is cool. Do you feel any pressure ticking off the line before you're ready, or what's the week like for you?
No, I think it's one of those events where I just go to have fun and I don't feel like there's any pressure on me to do anything that I don't want to do. I was a little bummed this year. I did want to do a top to bottom, but I just didn't feel it. And honestly, like the flip was a big one for me and I was stoked on that. It was like by far the biggest flip I've ever done. So after that, I was kind of happy chilling, and then riding the rockets and things like that. So I think definitely like there's always more you want to do, but I was like super stoked. I feel like it's one of those environments where it's like up to you on how much you want to, like what you want to do. And that for me, I was stoked. It was such a fun week and I did what I wanted to do for the most part. So yeah, it was so good.
Yeah, because you and Robin flipped the step up in tandem as well, right? In the train. Yeah, people got to see that clip. It's so cool.
Yeah, it was so sick. I was umming and ahhing it for a while, and yeah, I think, and then I got so pumped up to do it, and then one of the boys had a big crash, and there was like a course hold for 30 minutes, and I was just like, oh no, I was like, this is it, like it's been too long now. But then like it cleared, and Robin was like, let's just go, like let's train it or whatever, and I was like, or I said to her, I was like, I'm gonna follow you, and then. Yeah, I don't know if she even thought I was going to do it, but I think she turned around and saw that I'd done it. It was pretty insane. Like that was a sick moment for sure.
So she'd flipped it before, or did you both do it for the first time in the train?
No, she'd done it before.
She'd done it before,
yeah.
And then she basically bullied you to follow her, and then you'd flipped for the first time following it.
I actually think it was one of the moments where I think it was more me. Like I think she like before she did it for the first time, she joked. She was like, "Let's do a flip train." And I was like, no, I don't think I'm like ready for that. And she was like, yeah. And then she flipped it, and then I was like, maybe I do really want to do this. And then I think I asked her, I was like, do you want to do a train? And I think she kind of knew what I meant, and she was like, yeah, let's do it. So it was kind of, I think she was like, yeah, it was me getting stoked, I think, from seeing it and being like, let's just do it. Like I just had no idea really how it was, like I barely flipped the big bike before. Like that was my second time I flipped the downhill bike to dirt. So I was like, it was very foreign compared to like the slopestyle bike where I do it all the time. So it was like I had no idea what the feeling was going to be like, and it was one of the slowest flips I've ever done. I remember like being upside down and just feeling like it stopped. And I was just like praying that it was going to come down.
Who did you just decide how hard you're going to pull? Did someone tell you? Like, because it is a totally different pull than a slopestyle ride.
Yeah, so different. I think Robin just told me before, she was like, it feels so slow. I was like, okay. So she was like, just trust that it's like slow as, like, don't pull hard. Like it's gonna feel so slow. So that's what I did, and it worked out. I think it was definitely like could have cleaned it up a little bit, but yeah, I was stoked on that. Yeah, it was pretty gnarly feeling.
Did you do it again, or was it just that one?
Just that one, but I'd like to go back and do it more for sure. I think needs a few more for sure.
Yeah, I think it was awesome. Like when the ladies were coming for the first time, I just seen like the sheer speed you had to hit some of the jumps, and I didn't know if the speed was going to work. I always thought the courage and like the skill would be there, and I think they would send it. I just didn't know if the course would work, if that makes sense. And boy, was I wrong. Like it's like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's just like, I mean, it does depend. Like some riders do roll really slow and others, roll really fast. I know, yeah, some girls and some guys are fully pinned for stuff, and others like chilling. So it's definitely an interesting event to go to for the first time. Like when speed is just like so important. It's like, and like the wind that makes such a difference, and toe ins make such a difference. Like following someone is insanely different to doing it by yourself. Like that's like a massive thing about Dark Fest and big jumps is all about that you're learning, and that's so fresh to me. But yeah, like I said before, everything feels fresh to me, so it's like it's kind of good, I guess. Yeah,
ignorance is bliss, as they say. But the The wind was a big challenge this year, and it's faster in the evenings. It kind of blows. Well, if there's no wind, it's the air pressure's going down the valley. In the morning, it's coming up, and it takes experience and to know that, as well as like trust yourself. And I think saying you didn't do everything you wanted to do, but you didn't feel comfortable, I think that's smart as well, right? And that's luckily that environment down there does allow that. You ticked off this awesome trick. Maybe you didn't get the top to bottom this year, but in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really matter,
Yeah, I think like I take away everything that I can from those events, and at the moment I'm like, I had a lot of in the back of my mind about slopestyle too. Like, I'm glad that we've done the first one now, because things like Darkfest and Hardline, like, it was in the back of my head that I wanted to be good for Rotorua. So that's hard, like, to go to events where it is gnarly and like you need to be in send it kind of mode, but at the same time being like, I want to be healthy for Crankworks, like that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a bit of a mix. Once I did the flip, I was like, okay, I'm good, like I'm chilling. Same with like sort of Hardline, like I was so stoked on the features that I did do, but at the same time it was like, okay, like how much should I be sending it right now? Like, I guess it just depends on like what your priority is, and like it's just hard sometimes, because like you want to send it, and I was like surprised at Hardline how good I felt, because like I hadn't ridden tech in like over a year. Like, it was insane. I got to the event and I was with all these girls and like just did like a warm-up lap somewhere. I was with like Tani and Louise, and I was like, they like took off, and I was like, oh my god, what am I doing here? But it's like another one of those like learning ones for sure.
What does your family think about this career change of yours and flipping at Darkfest and women's slopestyle?
I think they love it. They're super supportive. They always have been. But they're just like chilling. Like, they just support me, but aren't super involved in a good way. Like, it's always like, my dad was never one of those crazy BMX dads. He was just like, I think like I remember I crashed at a World Champs one year and I was super upset, and I remember he was like, if you want to quit right now, like I wouldn't care at all, and I was like, no, of course not, like I don't want to stop. But like it was never like a thing for them where they cared how I did results wise. Like, it was like, if she's enjoying it, like let her do it, that kind of thing. I think my mom gets pretty nervous. I don't think she watches any of my stuff live. But she like waits to see the results first before she watches, to make sure I haven't like had a massive crash on the live stream. But yeah, no, they love it and they're just super chill about it, which is sick.
And your dad got you into BMX and took you all around. Like, what's it like looking back at that?
Yeah, he always did cross country mountain biking and all that kind of things as I was growing up, and I have two siblings, but neither of them got into it. So I think he was stoked that one of us got into it, because he loves it. And yeah, started taking me to BMX races around Australia, and then did some of the world champs as a kid growing up, and up until I was, in my late teens and 20s and that kind of thing. And I started doing it a bit myself. But yeah, I think he just like loved watching me ride and enjoyed it, and he still does it too now these days. I don't think he understands the slopestyle as much as the racing, but I think he like loves to watch it for sure.
So he's still mountain biking himself and watching the race scene?
Yeah, he's still mountain biking. He loves riding. He much prefers to ride over driving car anywhere.
That's awesome. So use it as a commuter as well. Still in Canberra?
Yeah, he does a lot of bike packing and hiking and that kind of thing. We're now out in the mountains on the weekends. He loves that, and just I think everyone in Canberra knows him, and lots of people know me just through him, I think, more than anything. Yeah.
Is he more well known in the town
I think so,
for two wheels than you?
For sure, definitely. And then if they know me, it's just because he's told them about me, probably.
I'm sure he's very proud, as he should be. It's a fascinating city, like with the biking and like some of the riders that have come out of there, and like the scene. Is it still at what's the mountain bike park called?
Yeah, Stromlo.
It is called Stromlo, yeah. Is that still the main place that they're building at and keeping going?
There's still, it's still a pretty great facility. Like, we've gotten some brand new dirt jumps that were built by Tom Mallett, who did a lot of work at Hardline. He's just an absolute artist in the machine. I watch him do that, and I'm like, wow, I have so much to learn. It's pretty insane to watch. So he's just built new dirt jumps there, which are really sick, and keen to get back onto them very soon. Great scene there. Like, there's also like a few other like Togwonong Pines, Majura Pines, which are 2 mountains around as well, but do sick stuff. And we've got so many skate parks too that are like so good for mountain bikes. That's a really big one for me lately, is like trying to do more skate park for the slopestyle stuff. And yeah, we've got really sick stuff. I think in terms of like the bigger picture, like you have to travel for sure, but it's a great spot. Like I spend like a month or 2 here a year, a little bit more this year, just with like how the crankworks have been spaced out, but definitely not a bad spot at all to be settled in at the moment. That, like, obviously love being in Queenstown and stuff like that, but it's great being back here and spending time. The local scene has really grown over the last few years, with young boys and girls like getting into sort of slopestyle and crankworks and that kind of thing. It's really sick to see.
And yeah, what does the year look like for you? You're saying you're actually mostly not at home, even in between. You do Queenstown quite a bit, and then you're on the road. What's the year sort of looking like this year?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty hectic. I think we've got Cairns coming up, and that'll be doing the slopestyle there. And then I think we'll go straight over to Europe from Cairns. We've got another slopestyle happening, I believe, in Slovakia. And then we'll go over to, I think Vera and Hodgie are having a jam at their place in Wales, which is going to be sick. Going to do that. And then go from there to Innsbruck for Crankworks, and then go to Canada, spend some time hanging out with everyone there, do Whistler, hopefully Joyride. That's the dream. And then there's a few other slopestyle events in Canada, and then probably back to Europe for some more freeride, and then maybe back to the US, hoping to come around to Utah for Rampage and like Greener Classic and all that kind of thing. Like, lots of cool freeridey stuff sort of towards the end of the year, till like October, November, and then kind of come back to this side of the world again. But it's kind of cool. It's like sort of loosely based around, I guess, the slopestyle series, but like so many opportunities coming up, and I would never say no to a freeride event for sure.
Geez, that's months and months away from home. I mean, I know it's a choice, but it's certainly a bit of a sacrifice as well, not seeing friends, family, and back home. I know it a little bit from living out of a bag when I did it, but that's a big schedule.
No, it's hectic, but I think it is made easier by the fact that for the most part, I'm usually traveling with, my friends and that kind of thing. Like, I'm never really doing any of it by myself. Like, so it does become a lot easier and a lot more fun. It definitely becomes tiring. Like, there is definitely that lack of downtime of doing nothing. Like, I think last year when me and Robin were in Europe, we were doing some slopestyle events, and we realized after like several weeks, we were like, we haven't had a day off where we either haven't been riding or traveling. Like, and you like count those travel days as not riding, but you're still not chilling out. Like, you're still like either driving like 6 or 7 hours somewhere else, or you're flying, or you're packing bikes. Like, it's never like downtime for sometimes a long time, and you don't notice it until you realize you're exhausted, and then you're like, okay, let's go chill out somewhere for a minute. Yeah,
you've got to really be aware of that on the road, because you're not at home in your environment or seeing friends and family where you switch off and you recharge the battery. So what do you do to recharge your battery, especially when you're on the road?
I think like now I have a little bit more of it, like a network of people. Like, at the start, it was like I didn't really know anyone and that kind of thing. But now it's like I've got people that I know everywhere. Like, you go visit Katie and Revy, and like go take the dogs out for a walk or hang out in Revy. Like, I know lots of people there now, and that's a sick scene. And same like in Europe, like, people and you go hang out. I think it's taking that time away and knowing when you feel exhausted. Like, going out, like in Queenstown, you go for a swim in the river, that kind of thing, or the lake and that kind of stuff. So just figuring out those little pockets to have fun. I think we did a similar thing in Roto. Like, we had finals on Sunday and Saturday, and we had one morning practice, and then the rain came, and we were like, okay, we're not going to have an afternoon session, obviously. like, let's go do something that like takes our mind completely away from it, because otherwise we're going to be sitting in the hotel all afternoon thinking about what we're going to do the next day. So I think we went out and like went to the arcade and played like, I can't remember what we did. We went to a challenge room or something like that, and just like played the arcade and just anything like just so it just completely takes your mind off it for a bit. And that was really good, because yeah, you got to do that sometimes.
It's so important, but you, like you said, sometimes you go weeks without realizing you haven't done it. And you've got a passion for photography. Is that still a thing? You're still buying cameras and
I mean,
doing that sort of stuff?
The film cameras. I think it was like really funny to do. Like last year, I had one disposable per crankworks. I had to use the roll during crankworks, get through it, but not waste it too quickly. So it was like finding the funniest moments. So I just liked having the disposable, because if you give it to someone at the after party, like, it's not an expensive camera that they're going to break if it gets just absolutely destroyed by someone, and it's super, anyone can use it, just like wind or snap, and it's going to take good photos. So I did that last year, which was really sick, and looking back on it, it's really cool. So I haven't done that this year, but I might do a bit more, and I'm also enjoying like filming and maybe doing more stuff on YouTube. So I really enjoy that kind of stuff. That and the filming and that kind of stuff is really sick to me. So maybe some more, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, and is it true that you like to get some merch and random things from events and travels and hang on to them? Like, what's the weirdest or funniest, oddest merch you've got that you actually use?
I mean, yeah, I'm quite a sentimental person. I like to keep something from like most of the events that I have, which is like not great for traveling with. I'm always like well over the weight and that kind of thing. It's like a curse. But I don't even know. Like the Dark Fest bottle that we got this year was pretty insane. I mean, we all had to take that. But that was massive. I was like, thanks for that, Sam. Like, appreciate that one. But that's a good one to take everywhere. That was pretty iconic one. But yeah, always taking bits and pieces. I think what was it like? I think it like something from like the athlete booth one year, and I accidentally took, but it was like I felt bad. I just took it back to the hotel. It was like one of the phone rolls or something. I took it back to the hotel, and then I think someone thought it was mine, so they took it on the last day, and then I couldn't give it back to Crankworks. So sorry about that. But
oh well, I think you've given them enough media, and we've spoken about them positively. So I think you're right there. I think my first World Champs when I was 15 in Spain. Yeah, I think we got excited and we climbed up these sort of telephone poles, and they had a lot of like the event flags and stuff. So we sort of untied those and rolled them up and brought them home. And I probably didn't even use it, but I thought, well, maybe they were in the garage for a while, like a souvenir. I think that's cool. I think if you're able to get some of it home, one day it'll be quite funny looking back at that stuff. So you mentioned self-building some of these jumps, probably to ride. Where are you at with maybe getting a facility? Are more sponsors open to that? And then maybe video projects coming up. What's a goal of yours?
Yeah, like having land of my own to build on would be the dream. I think it's still a little ways off, unfortunately. But yeah, like there's lots of chats with me and some of the other girls in slopestyle about building a facility, whether that be like in New Zealand or something like that. That would be a great thing to invest in. Like that's definitely something I would like to do, and I know lots of the other girls would like to do, but it's still very up in the open in terms of like financially getting that done. But yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces at the moment. I have a little bit of help here in Canberra with a friend's property, and they let me train there, that kind of thing, which has been really sick. At the moment, I'm just chilling out because I have a little bit of an injury, but yeah, and then film projects, like super excited to do more of those. I think that's going to be a big focus, is establishing more content online of myself. Like that's a big thing, and I want to be part of more, iconic movies that happen in mountain biking. That's, a big thing for me, like growing up watching like New World Disorder, that kind of thing. Like that was like iconic to me, and like looking back, it's still really iconic. So if one day I can look back and I'm a part of even something to that scale or close to it, I would be stoked. So that's definitely where I would like to be going. I'd
love to see that. It's a pity they don't have those films because if they did, for sure, you ladies would have been in a segment for sure. So I hope you guys can put something together through Red Bull or someone, like some gnarly self-built edit would be epic. So definitely want to see that.
That would be sick. Like going back to like Utah, like that's somewhere I really haven't spent much time outside of formation with. So that's definitely like a future goal, is to spend more time like doing content out there, getting used to the desert, like really working on that side of things, whether that be Rampage in the future, that kind of stuff. That's definitely a massive goal for me, depending on where that goes in the sport, like either producing content or competing. Like that is a spot that I want to spend more time at in the future for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think the sky's the limit. I don't know if there's anything we've missed, but I can't wait to watch, for lack of a better term, the progression, the industry. And I think what better way to have you and the rest of the ladies, you have it on your shoulders, but in a good way. It's exciting. I think, as we said, I think it's a privilege. You look at it like that, the next generation is going to be able to thank you and look back on it fondly.
Yeah. It is a privilege, and I love every minute of it, and it is genuinely nowhere else I would rather be. I think that's an important one to remember at the events when you are nervous. It's like there's nowhere else I would rather be, nothing else I would rather be doing. And I think everyone in Roto did that. Like we were all stoked, and I felt like we all knew that that's where we wanted to be, and everyone was just having a good time. And that's hopefully the energy we're going to keep bringing. And can't wait for Cairns. I feel like it's going to be the same thing, and then having the guys competing next to us, like, it's going to be sick too. Like, just have the atmosphere insane, and home crowd very excited. Like, they always go so hard, and yeah, just keep building that pressure, that kind of thing. It's going to be sick.
Epic. I think you put a pretty good bow in it. Where can the listener find you? You've got a YouTube channel and obviously Instagram. I'll try link to those, but what is it for them?
Yeah, so everything basically just has Nation Bikes, and you can find me through those: Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, that kind of thing. Yeah, basically everything is under that name.
Where did the name come from?
Nothing really. Just like was trying to figure out something to call my YouTube channel ages ago, and called it that, and then eventually called it on my Instagram. Just like felt like my full name is super long, so it was always just Haz. And then kind of came up with that username. Nothing super crazy about it. But yeah.
Well, thanks so much for digging deep into the life and pressures of women's freeride and crankwork slopestyle. To the listeners, if you're on the audio, can you press pause? We're on YouTube as well. Speaking of YouTube, Moving the Needle podcast, if you like more of a visual experience. So, I think the next generation can really benefit from this conversation. So maybe the best thing you can do is share it with someone maybe doesn't know about the show or could benefit from hearing from Harriet's story. Thanks so much again. Until the next episode, peace.